Okay, so it's Stanley Space Demon coming at you again with another video. And you know, when you think of the band Rush, they've worn a lot of labels throughout the years. You know, progressive rock, nerd rock, prog metal. But you know, back in the band's early days, they were more or less just a hard rock band, more in the vein of Led Zeppelin and Humble Pie. And you know, one of the band's early breaks was when they managed to land an opening spot on tour with heavy rockers Kiss. And Rush opened 52 shows for Kiss in 1974 and 1975. And the two groups got on famously. And you know, when you think of Rush and you think of Kiss and you think of the overall catalogs, you kind of think, you know, apples and oranges kind of. They were more similar in the early days in terms of the hard rock. But you know, when you look at a record like Signals, and you compare it to something like Creatures of the Night, two albums that were released around the same time, very different. You don't think of the bands of having a lot in common. Even take something like a Farewell to Kings, compare that to something like a Love Gun or a Rock and Roll Over. Pretty different. And you wouldn't think that a band like Rush, who are kind of given saddled as being this sort of kind of this heady, intellectual kind of reputation in terms of rock and roll. You know, their music's regarded as being a bit more cerebral, whereas Kiss's music comes from a place, you know, a little bit further south, you know, pretty much more straight ahead. And you wouldn't think a group like Rush would learn much from a band like Kiss on the surface of it. But the truth of the matter is, on that early tour with Kiss, Rush did happen to learn a lot from Kiss, some very important lessons. And one of the very first lessons they learned was how an opener should treat, or how a headliner should treat an opening band. Because, you know, Rush, before touring with Kiss, they had an experience with the band Aerosmith. They did about 70 shows opening for Aerosmith. And basically they said Aerosmith were pricks to them. They never gave them a sound check. They kind of really were trying to stifle them, wouldn't give them enough, you know, space on stage that they needed. And Aerosmith, it seems, might have been a little intimidated because Rush kind of had a reputation in the early days of being a rip-roaring power trio. And a lot of these bands were kind of intimidated. So when Rush came time to open for Kiss, Kiss wasn't intimidated by anybody. Kiss was the band that was blowing everybody off the stage, pissing off the headliners, and finally got their chance to open up shows. So I guess that probably played a role in the fact that Kiss was very friendly. Here's what Geddy Lee had to say about that early tour. He said, we did a lot of shows together with Kiss, he's saying, and he said, they were really nice to us and very friendly. Alex Lifeson said, we were both coming up at the same time and we were both unknown bands, basically, and we really slogged it out together. Geddy Lee says they played fairly small theaters all over America, which varied in size from 1,000 capacity to a couple thousand seats. Rush learned a lot from Kiss, even beyond that a headliner should be nice to their opening band, which is what they learned. But another thing they learned, Alex Lifeson says, the amount of effort and preparation they put into their shows was impressive. We respected them for that, and we learned a lot from that too. We were quite young and we were learning from other bands how to treat other musicians that were on your shows. He also said, the key thing we learned from playing with Kiss is always give 100% in a live show. Be the best you can be and give it your all every single night. He says, we also learned from them the importance of visuals as well, which is part of being an entertainer. And Geddy Lee reiterates the fact in terms of the visuals. He said they admired a lot of the British prog rock bands who went on stage, gave you something extra. You know, groups like Genesis, Peter Gabriel would go on stage in his costumes, things like that. Pink Floyd with their elaborate laser shows. And he said that it was a great introduction to America, and to have a band that treated us so well and showed us a level of professionalism to put on the best show. And he said they were indeed inspired by the Kiss spectacle, and as soon as Rush could afford it, they started investing money in things like projection and these visual effects. Indirect inspiration from Kiss as far as putting on the show. Gene Simmons says that Kiss also taught Rush a lot about music politics. He said, meet the promoter, meet the program director, collect phone numbers, send people cards. They learn the importance of building a relationship with the industry. And Paul Stanley had this to say about Rush. He says, there are good guys in bands and there are great guys. Rush were great guys, fun to be around, no pretense. So there you have it. Things Rush learned from Kiss, how to treat an opening band. In fact, the Kiss and the Rush road crews got along so well that Rush wound up thanking some of the road crews from Kiss, the crew members, on their album Caress of Steel on the album sleeve. And that's how well they got along. Rush also learned the importance of a visual aspect to a concert performance, the importance of giving it all, not mailing it in on stage every night for the fans. So there you have it. Rush indeed. Say what you want about either band musically, dig them or don't, but the fact is, Kiss did teach a lot to Rush, a young up-and-coming band, as they both were back in the early days. And I hope you guys dug this one, Rush fans, Kiss fans, and we'll see you next time.
Who's here?